been a busy 2 years for RightShip since the last Posidonia. And we've really been, over the last 2 years, trying to get out into the environment and listen to what people have to say. As an organization, we're very much centered around data, and we have a lot of data in our database, but some of the most important data that we've gathered over the last 2 years has been from the industry, and particularly from the community here in Greece, who've given us some very structured feedback. That feedback has been really important for us to be able to evolve our products and our services in the market. And let me give you some examples of what we've done in the last 2 years. So firstly, our GHG rating. We recently launched GHG 2.0. This was an important step for the industry. First of all, we moved from a 7-point scale to a 5-point scale, so that was alignment with CII. But we also changed our methodology from a power-based methodology to a speed methodology. And that allows us to account for things like EPLs with more ease, whilst we're not penalising those organisations that are truly doubling down on innovation. So that's one thing. Another initiative we've done has been to evolve our safety score. We have recently launched some amendments to the safety score, including a grace period for the DOC holders after incidents. And again, that is something that's been derived from feedback from the market. If I go back to some of the feedback that we've received from the industry, one of the key points was, how do we make RightShip more accessible? In effect, how do we democratize our data and make RightShip available to the smaller owners and managers, for which there are many hundreds here in Greece? So one of the things we've done between last Posidonia and now is to introduce and launch RightStore. And RightStore is an easy way for anyone to get in and have a look at their data on RightShip. So we've introduced some separate tier structures with the aim of democratizing data. Another key point that we received was, we sit on quite a lot of data for RightShip, but how do we make that data accessible to the industry? And we've done that by aggregating a lot of information and developing a series of insight reports that we've made freely available to the industry. And these can be accessed through RightStore. And a good example that I would urge readers to go and have a look at is the enclosed space entry insights report that we released last year. So RightStore for us has been, it's allowed us to make RightShip much more accessible to a broader community of stakeholders. One additional initiative we've introduced into RightStore is our Zero Harm Partners program. And we've used here RightStore as a platform to work with innovative startups and organisations that share a passion to reduce harm from the industry and actually promote them through RightStore. So I urge you to go and have a look and see how that could benefit you. That's a great question. Decarbonisation and digitalisation are certainly two risks that we see out there. And there is a lot of discussion, a lot of conferences we attend, including here in Posidonia. There is a lot of discussion around digitalisation and decarbonisation as key challenges. I would like to just leave them to the side for one moment and just actually bring into focus some other pertinent challenges and risks that exist. And that is, first of all, let's talk about crew welfare and wellness. There is still a persisting problem around crew welfare and seafarer wellness. If you look into data that we have for last year, again, we've seen a considerable rise in abandonments, around 168 vessels abandoned last year. We do a lot of work with charities at RightShip, and we've continued to support charities to try and reduce the impact that these practices are having on crew and crew welfare. If you look at the recent Seafarer Happiness report from the Mission to Seafarers, it still portrays that things like workloads and isolation are issues that crew members are still struggling to deal with and manage. RightShip has stepped up and is supporting the mission to seafarers through the Global Ambassador Programme. If you also look into the Sailors Society to Cadet report that was released late last year, what that report highlights is that there are still a lot of crews who are being subject to bullying and harassment and abusive behaviour, both physical and sexual abuse. And those type of practices cannot continue in the maritime industry. So it's really important for us at RightShip that we continue to try and raise awareness of these challenges in the industry and help the industry take action to eradicate those. I sat yesterday at the EMEA conference where I listened to a gentleman from the US Coast Guard talk about how the US Coast Guard are going to focus on eliminating bullying and harassment in ships that are calling in US waters. And that fills us with a lot of encouragement, and we really support that. But for us, a lot of the work that we've focused on has been around crew welfare and the crew welfare self-assessment, which over the last 2 years has evolved, and we have nearly 20% of the world fleet now assessed under the crew welfare self-assessment. So crew welfare is certainly a challenge. I also want to take the conversation towards more generic safety challenges that the industry are facing. Let's talk about port state control performance. Detentions are going up. Last year, there was around 2,500 detentions across the world. In your own SAFETY4SEA report recently, you highlighted the statistics from AMSA last year, with nearly 16.7% of heavy lift vessels being detained and 11.8% of general cargo vessels. In fact, what the data suggests is detentions are on the rise across the world. When you consider that detentions are potentially a precursor for incidents, it also raises concern that we're going to see an increase in incidents. And certainly at RightShip, we're still seeing an incredible number of fatalities year on year. In fact, last year, there were nearly 250 fatalities registered on our database. So yes, whilst we recognise decarbonization and digitalization bring their own new, unique challenges, we cannot forget the challenges that exist in the industry already. Okay, that's a really great question. And let me bring 2 points out in response to your question. The first around stakeholder engagement. I hear, and we hear a lot around the challenges that exist in trying to drive a greener future of bringing the community together so that everyone is aware of the challenges that each other are facing and people can share data. As I walk around Posidonia here, I see shipbuilders, I see ship designers, engine manufacturers, I see class, I see flag states, maritime service providers, all centered on a nation, one of the largest ship-owning nations in the world. There is a huge opportunity to leverage here. But what actually disappoints me is that I don't see all of these people being brought around the table for an honest discussion about the challenges that they're facing or how they can tap into each other. And I think that is an opportunity that is missed. When we look at 2030, that's just 6 years away. That means 2 more Posidonias to go before we hit that critical time period. So my wish is we use an opportunity like this in Posidonia to really bring a collective group of stakeholders together, and let's have some real honest conversations about what people need to do. The second point that I would highlight is more integration with the port community. The ports are a key enabler to driving a different future for the maritime sector. Across safety, across environment, and across social. They really are a key enabler. Let's talk social for a moment. I mentioned there the Mission to Seafarers. I know very well that charities such as the Mission to Seafarers, and that there are others, they struggle to get access on board ships because they can't get access through the ports. So the ports hold the keys to allow that vital support from charities on board the ships. From a safety perspective, they facilitate inspections. And from an environmental perspective, they have the keys to be able to implement initiatives such as just-in-time arrival that are going to reduce emissions from the environment. The challenge that we see for ports is there is a clear absence of regulation that pushes down on those ports. And therefore, they're very subservient to either to the jurisdiction in which they operate or to the company in which they fall under. And therefore, the ability for us to reach the ports and bring them into this environment, we think is going to be extremely powerful as we go forward.